Hello out there, my name is Laulu Akonde and you are on to Inside Sources. Today is your take where I share feedback from you, our viewers. Here we go. The first one is on the edition of my take where I started to read out the names of the victims in the recent genocidal killings in Plateau State, the ZK killings in April specifically. We have a feedback from Mr. Ifeanyi Mbanefo, a former senior NLLG executive. He posted this on a WhatsApp group. This is what he said. Sometimes when you think all hope is lost, you wake up to a piece of excellent journalism. Pastor Laulu Akonde, this is journalism at its best. Take your flowers. Your report will hopefully rehumanize our public space and elevate the victims beyond mere statistics. 100 killed in Plateau and Benue. Who is training our copy editors? What happened to their humanity? 10 persons and 3 Hausas died, brand of journalism, Abi? Rebecca Sonnet, writer and activist, wrote a fine book titled Call It By Its True Name. Every journalist should get a copy. In it, she said, and now is quoted, changing the world means changing the story, the names and the languages with which we describe it. Calling things by their true names cuts through the lies that excuse, disguise, avoid, or encourage inaction, indifference, obliviousness in the face of injustice and violence. Unquote. Again, thank you, my brother. Someone will say your name, plead your case before God, and everywhere it is needed. There are 7 traditionally recognized corporal work of mercy. Your report is the 8th. Keep well. Thank you so much, Mr. Mbanefo, for that very thoughtful comment. We go on to the next comment. This is on the edition that featured retired General Anthony Atolagbe. This is from Stephen Okpanachi from YouTube. Laulu, I have a lot of respect for you for balancing your reports. Don't allow the general let you twist the narrative for fear of consequences because he's retired. You set the record straight from your introduction. It is clear that this is genocide and shying away from the truth. You said the vice president assured the people of justice in 2018. The question begging for answers is, was that justice served? That's very true. Good question. And finally, I want to share with our viewers a general post by Senator Ben Bruce of a picture of himself and Governor Donald Duke that was taken at the construction site of the controversial Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway project. Bruce said, and I quote him, "Tinubu is doing wonders. Today I visited the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Road construction site with my good friend, the former governor of Cross Rivers, His Excellency Donald Duke. The project is truly magnificent and unlike any other. Upon completion, it will undoubtedly be recognized as one of the greatest infrastructure wonders of our time." Unquote. That was what Ben Bruce said. So I shared that post with Governor Duke, who immediately responded to me, and this was what he said. And I quote him, "Ben is using me for money ritual to please Bola Tinubu. I never endorsed a project that never went through due process." I couldn't stop laughing. Who doesn't know that the distinguished Senator Bruce is a top-notch clown? And there you have it. Inside Sources will be right back with a more serious issue. Welcome back to Inside Sources. Today we are leading with a conversation on what has been happening in north-central Nigeria, specifically the states of Plateau. Now, Governor Caleb Mutfwang told the whole nation that genocide is taking place. He also said that over 62 or thereabout communities are being occupied. So today, we want to talk about that occupation with the people who come from some of those occupied places to join us in that conversation. Because it's important for us to keep an eye on what it is that is happening in our country. We have to keep an eye because justice must remain at the cornerstone of governance. So if a group of Nigerians don't see justice, we need to pay attention to it. So to join me in that important conversation today, I have three gentlemen, one of them starting right here in the studio, Barrister Reze Jugo, who is a board member of the Irigwe Development Association. Barrister, you're welcome back to Inside Sources.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure being here again.
Thank you. The last time it was virtual, but now you're here.
Yes, sir.
Now, joining us virtually, I also have two other gentlemen representing different communities in Plateau State, communities that are affected by what we're talking about. I'd like to welcome Dr. Justice Chingedodo. Dr. Justice Chingedodo, you're welcome to Inside Sources.
Thank you so much. Good morning, viewers, and it's a pleasure being here.
Thank you. We also have finally virtually Barrister Daliop Solomon Wantiri, who is the national president of the Berom Youth Molder Association. The national president of the Berom Youth Molder Association, Barrister Solomon Wantiri. Barrister, welcome to Inside Sources.
Good morning. It's my pleasure to be here. Good morning, listeners and viewers.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So let's start with Barrister Jugo, who is here with me. So the governor of Plateau State said there are over 60 communities that have been occupied. I also have here a statement made by a group of community associations in Plateau, Ataka, Berom, Irigwe, Wangulu, and Ron, if I call them right, where they said that about 151 communities, actually now the number has gone up to 154 communities that are either occupied or where the land has been grabbed. So I want you to tell our viewers exactly what is happening in some of these places. What is the fate of the people? Is it that the people have been completely, scared out of their land, or is it that there is some kind of new colonial system where the people that took the land are now calling the shots? Just give us, a glimpse of what is happening.
Well, thank you very much. In answering your question, it would be nice to situate where all of this started. So to speak, a historical context for the question. Plateau State, like you know, is on the plateau. It's a great place for all kinds of, animal husbandry, right, for farming and all of that. So over time, from the days of our forefathers, we knew that the place was very fertile. It gave room for a lot of feeding people. It fed people across Plateau State and even beyond. It made for good settlement. People left wherever they are till today. As a matter of fact, once in a while you find people, trying to make sure that they migrate into the city centers because they feel at home. Now, over time, that, the neighbors were mostly individuals who were pastoralists, who could get around and could make sure that they could feed and graze. Because, of course, when you're farming, you're going to have chaff at the end of the day, and you need to be able to dispose of it. And the relationship was symbiotic and it was great. But there came a time where we no longer, the relationship and what used to keep that balance was no longer there.
Thank you so much. Before we go to our guest on the virtual guest, I have here a statement that was made by a number of the groups, communities affected. And they are saying that terrorists and bandits and some militants, allegedly Fulani militants, have taken over 150 communities. For instance, it says here that Kukwa in Bassa local government was annexed, in 2017. Now this is what the communities are alleging, and I want to just go through it. It says that Ratsu, in Bassa local government was also annexed by 2017. It keeps on going and going. Rotu, yeah. A long list. For instance, it says Ganda in Darfur, Bokos in 2018 was annexed. That is what this statement is alleging. It goes on, Tamiso of Mango in Bokos was annexed. They put a specific date in that particular case. They said December 26, 2023. That was when Tamiso of Mango was annexed. We have Lungai of Mango, Ugamom of Mango. We have places in Riyom. In fact, there is one, Rochun. They are alleging that in October 2001, that place was actually renamed from Rochun in Riyom to Rafin Acha. This is what the communities are alleging that is happening. Of course, we know that the governor himself said that there are 62 communities, but we have not seen the list. But here you have a group of the communities coming together to draw up a list. And it goes on and on. Rankum Village, Darin, Janda, Shong, Palang, Kasav, Shonong, Cook of Shonong. Goes on and on and on with dates of when the alleged annexation has taken place. And I'm using the word alleged just to be, a little bit cautious. The governor of the state himself has told us that over 60 communities in Plateau State have been totally occupied. So I want to ask you, Mr. Jugo, this statement was initially made May of last year.
That's correct.
About 151 communities, hamlets and communities that were either totally occupied or where where you guys are alleging that there is land grabbing.
Yes. My
question is that has the situation changed between that time you issued this press release and now?
No. If anything, it is getting worse. Just today, I got at least 3 more, 3 more communities in Bassa local government that have also suffered the same fate. And why is that? Because nobody has been brought to book. When justice is not done and seen to be done, you're going to have perpetrators having a field day. They walk into those places with impunity. There's no fear. Nobody is going to touch anyone. No one is going to bring them to book. So they go on and they do what they want, when they want, how they want to go about it.
Okay. All right. So let's engage our Zoom guest. Let's start with Dr. Justice Chinde Dodo, who is also a member of the Irigwe Youth Movement. Dr. Chinde, can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay. So I want to ask you, in terms of some of this thing that is going on, what is your own personal experience, and how do you describe what Nigerians have come to learn about that is happening in Plateau? Doctor.
The situation, I tell you, my brother, is horrific, terrible, and very unfortunate. It's a signal that if care is not taken, we'll soon wake up to a nation where lawlessness, where anarchy, where rule of men instead of rule of law governs the society. Because how else on earth do you explain a situation whereby series and several communities are being overrun by terrorists, by land grabbers, and yet nothing practical is being done? All we see every day is a cycle of a system, a strategy that is not working. What will normally happen is that the community is attacked and then government issue out a statement with the famous "enough is enough." And we have never seen anything that is enough ever since the killings, especially of our people, began in 2017 in earnest. We have seen a cycle where continuously things happen, and then it's as if there are a series of speeches that are written, waiting for an incident to happen, and then such a statement is issued to suit the attack that has happened, and then practically things are not getting in order, things are getting out of hand instead. From 2017 to be precise to date, we have had about 9 of our community. I speak for the Irigwe community of or in Bassa local government. Bassa is a heterogeneous local government. We have various ethnic groups, but I belong to the Irigwe ethnic stock. And like you said, I am not just a member of the Irigwe youth movement. I was once the national president of the Irigwe youth movement, and the experience is so terrible. It's so shameful. It's embarrassing. People gradually are losing hope in this thing we call government. People are losing hope in the ability of the state to handle situation, to deliver justice, and to protect lives and properties, which is the basic essence of government anywhere in the world. Things are not getting as expected by the people, because increasingly the number of people attacked keeps increasing. Communities that are sacked keeps increasing. Honestly speaking, our people are not happy. We are a terrified people. We are people who are feeling traumatized. We are people who are feeling alienated. We are people who are psychologically traumatized, and the situation is bad, is ugly. And there seems to be no solution to this, except for the fact that gradually people are beginning to feel that increasingly it is either you wake up and defend yourself, or you are defenseless forever.
Okay. I mean, Dr. Chinge, thank you so much. I want to ask you, so the people whose lands, you know, some of your community people whose land have been taken over, you know, or grabbed, what happens to them? Can you just tell me what happens to them? Where are they? What are they doing? You know, are they still living with the communities? What's their fate? You know, speak to that briefly.
There are levels of land grabbing on the plateau. In category A are communities that have been sacked, and then the terrorists come back to occupy, raise structure, and then occupy those structures that have been abandoned. On level 2 are communities that have been sacked, yet they're able to go back and farm, and when they go back to farm, when the crops are about to yield the fruits, the terrorists, the group of attackers will still come back and then mow the entire, destroy the farm crops. And on the level number 3 are communities that have been sacked, but structures have not been raised, and then they cannot go back to the farm, because when you dare move to go back and till the land, you get killed, you get chased away by this series of, by these attackers, by these terrorists. This is the situation at hand amongst our people.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Let's take it to Barrister Solomon Wantiri, who is the president of the Birom Youth Molder Association. I'd like to ask you, Barrister Solomon, that, look, so what's your own take? What kind of suffering have you seen the people whose land have been taken, whose communities have been occupied? What has been your experience? You know, how do you describe their fate?
Well, our people who have suffered series of attacks and displacement from the act of terrorism, banditry, and other forms of aggression meted out by Fulani militants has been very, very devastating. The people are in abject poverty. In short, they are daily living as beggars in their own land. And of course, we've not seen any deliberate attention given to these individuals who have been rendered homeless, vulnerable, and vulnerable in the sense that even at where they have been displaced to, the militants will still go after them. And you discover that an individual will be displaced like 3 or 4 times. What I mean here is, after displacement from point 1, he goes to take refuge in point B. And in point B, he will still be attacked, and he will, if he is able to survive it, he moves to point C. And we've had that, and it has been like a recurring decimal. Of course, the situation is very pathetic. Some have died not as a result of gunshots at the IDPs camps or where they've been hosted, but some have died as a result of going out, you know, to fend for their families, engaging themselves in menial jobs in order to earn a living. And some, I remember some have died in accidents, some have died in mining sites, mining ponds. Some have even died, you know, as a result of attacks that were carried out by the militants on mining sites. So the situation, looking at it holistically, it has not been an appealing one. It has been the people are summarily in a very sorry state. And that is why every day we keep calling on the appropriate authorities to act so that these people will be given a sense of belonging. But of course, we've cried out aloud and nothing has been done so far, except maybe at some point, few relief materials are brought. And this relief material, it will interest you that someone who was living independently has now been subjected to a perpetual beggar, where one intervention comes a year. He receives only like 4 or 10 measures of rice and guinea corn. And then this thing cannot even take him for a month. What happens after he consumes that one? So that is the situation of the people. And then, of course, there have been, closure of schools. And one thing that I've also observed with the bandits and the terrorists that have been ravaging our villages and communities is that they make sure that all schools, hospitals, and other facilities that are within those affected villages are either taken over or are demolished. And once they are demolished, it therefore means these people cannot get themselves enrolled into any school. And so there have been a large dropout of students. And then what happens at the end of the day? They expose themselves because of the environment they found themselves in, no attention given to them. They enroll themselves into all sorts of social vices. So the situation has been very, very pathetic. And of course, that is what we found ourselves in. And as I'm talking to you as an affected person, because that Rankum that you've named, that you've mentioned,
yes,
which is from Rio, that we rename as Mahanga, the notorious Mahanga that is not all over the country and internationally, is where I came from. Because I'm a native of Jol community, and Rankum, which has been renamed as Mahanga, is in short, it has been described as a terrorist enclave. Because even 3 days ago, there was a report in circulation that more bandits from Nasarawa, Bauchi, and Kaduna have been brought into, Mahanga was also mentioned, and other parts of the state, to continue with the onslaught they have been known for. And then, of course, we are expecting to have seen full deployment of security and maximization of maximizing kinetic approach, so that these terrorists will know that they cannot just get away after, committing such heinous crime. But what we see, arrests are made, and then we hear pressures from above calling for the release of bandits. Recently, there was one that was arrested in Barikiladi, named just with her. And then, of course, from the sources we've gathered availably, that this is someone that has direct connection with Bello Turji. He is the direct agent of Bello Turji. Yes, Bello Turji of Zamfara. He is a direct agent of Bello Turji on the Plateau to establish terrorist cells, in the state.
And so he was arrested, and what happened after he was arrested? What happened after he was arrested?
We've not heard of anything again, except we've heard that pressure are coming for the release of such a person. And as of yesterday, somebody we had an engagement with the GOC who assured us that justice will be upheld firmly. And then the question we raised there is that how will an individual who has been arrested with arms, who has been fingered in all sorts of terrorism, who has been fingered in supplying of arms and has a connection with one of the high-profile bandits in the country and have been arrested, and then we've not heard of further arrests, not that the people he have supplied the arms, by our belief, not that people he have supplied those arms to have fled, they are still around. And we've not seen further arrests or further effort to have these people identified and arrested. But what we are seeing in this part of the world is very, very unfortunate. That terrorists who have been known, who have been arrested, and thereafter released, they come in and brag their shoulders. It will interest the world to know that there was one of them. In short, there are many that were one time arrested. They were released without any trial.
When was that?
And when they did it.
When was that, Mr. Solomon?
In short, it appears one was released even last year. 2 years ago, one was released. And then 3 years ago, one was released. And when they return with celebration, with even firing of gunshots.
They will come back to the community.
Yes, because nobody could do them anything. And is that not impliedly an encouragement to act of terrorism to, continue in this part of the world? So the situation of the people whose lands have been taken over, we have not yet seen hope.
Okay.
We have not yet seen hope.
All right.
And that is why we are calling that let government willpower be set in motion so that these people will actually believe that government is alive to its responsibility.
Right. Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Wantiri. Just to wrap it up, I'll bring it back to Barrister Jugo. So a lot of the concerns that people have expressed, is about the law enforcement agencies being able to do their work independently, even the military trying to have an even-handed approach. And I'm happy that the president of the Bureau News Association, has spoken very well of the GOC that he mentioned, who assured that there will be justice. We do need that assurance, and we do need our law enforcement agencies to understand their role in the pursuit of justice. But the final question I'd like to ask you is that when the governor said that this is genocide,
yes.
You are a lawyer, barrister. Genocide is recognized internationally as a crime against, how do they call it, crime against humanity, and have you guys thought about, and I know that there are all kinds of movements and organizations that you guys are doing all over, across Benue, Plateau, and even some other parts of the country. Have you considered, how you guys can assert your rights, even internationally? Because, genocide is an international war crime.
Yes. Let me say very clearly that, when we take this with levity, we seem to forget that, there's a UN Declaration of Human Rights of Indigenous People that provides for the protection of traditional lands and cultural practices. There's an African Charter on Human Rights, Human and People's Rights, as ratified by Nigeria, that protects the collective rights and existence of and cultural identity. We have the UN Guiding Principles of Internal Displacement, outline responsibilities towards displaced populations. We have all of these things. We have the Article 3 of the Geneva Convention prohibiting violence against non-combatants. Sir, I say very clearly that there has been an abuse in country of the citizens of Nigeria as situated in this place.
Yeah, but
and this is why.
What are you guys doing about
And this is why.
As a group coming together.
And this is why we have decided that we're going to take it all the way to the ICC. We're taking it everywhere. We're taking it to ECOWAS. As we speak right now, even in Plateau State, as we're talking, there have been committees, some of which we're also part of, where there's right now a coalition of all the names, the towns, the perpetrators, and we're making the case, we're taking it to the highest level. And why are we doing this, sir? I will tell you, do not forget that even though these crimes are also domestic, we're talking about violations of Section 43 that has to do with the rights of everyone to acquire and possess immovable land.
Right.
We're talking about Section 33 that has to do with the right to life. We're talking about, the abuse of the Land Use Act 1978. Even though all of these things can be prosecuted in country, we have lost faith. So what do we do as a people? What do you do when you lose faith? You try to also take it to authorities, or you make sure that that people and institutions that are outside of this country also get the message that there's a genocide happening in Plateau State, in the Middle Belt, and somebody somewhere has to say something to Mr. President. I
believe that Nigeria will end this alarming situation in the North Central and in several other parts of our country. Thank you so much again, Mr. Jugo, Mr. Wantiri, and Dr. Chinge for coming to Inside Sources. Inside Sources will be right back.